Hello again and welcome to another episode of the Hyperion Adventures Podcast. I'm Tom. As always, I'm with my gorgeous, wonderful, hardworking, intelligent, Disney transportation loving wife and co-host Michelle.
Thank you, sweetie.
Is that right? I don't know, but that works, I guess.
It's a portion of it.
Okay, well, I can't wait to hear more. Because this is going to be a fun episode today, which we are recording actually on Saturday, December 4th, 2021. Even though this episode is releasing on December 5th, 2021. Why are we recording on December 4th on this Saturday, Michelle?
Well, because we're very fortunate to be able to have the opportunity tomorrow on Sunday to go see Hamilton live performance.
Yes, so as this episode is being released on the Sunday the 5th, we will be up in Hollywood going to the Pantages Theater to see Hamilton live on stage once again. It's our first show of anything outside of, like Disney stuff that we've been to since the pandemic began.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting, the whole idea of it, but I'm looking forward to it. We're going to be with family and it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, and this is something we've been trying to schedule for since the pandemic began. We've had like 4 or 5 different dates where we've had tickets to Hamilton up in LA and they've been canceled and pushed and whatever. And finally, this one appears like it's going to work out, knock on wood today, since it hasn't happened yet. But so far, so good. So really, really excited about that.
Yeah, it's good. It's really fun.
Yeah, very, very excited. So thank you for joining us today. In the future, you can find us most everywhere you get podcasts. However, the very best place to find us is on our own website, HyperionAdventurespodcast.com. And while you're there,
we want to invite you to join the newsletter if you haven't already.
Yes.
And there's going to be something mentioned in today's episode that will be for the newsletter recipients.
Ooh, just for the newsletter recipients?
Just for the newsletter recipients.
Wow, so you're going to get another little Michelle's tidbit that you only get if you are a newsletter recipient. So again, it's just another way to be a part of the Hyperion Adventures podcast world. We often give you a little extra when Michelle comes up with something, or we release news to you first for being on the newsletter. But we appreciate all of you who have already signed up for it.
That's right. And you don't have to worry. We don't share that email address with anyone.
Nope. Just for us to send the email, the newsletter out to you about once a week. We have a period coming up here where I think we're going to skip a couple weeks because we're going to be traveling. But for right now, it's once a week, usually on Tuesday, sometimes Wednesday, but usually on Tuesday afternoon, early evening, you receive that newsletter.
Right.
So another way to be greatly involved with us is through social media. Please follow us on Twitter. We're at Hyperion Podcast, Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest at Hyperion Adventures Podcast. If you are on Facebook, come on over and join us in our Hyperion Adventurers Facebook group where we're just having good, positive Disney energy fun.
Yeah. We love just interacting with people. People are great.
People are great. All you are great. We especially love those who are interacting with us on the Hyperion Adventurers Facebook group or anywhere on social media. We're also on YouTube. You can just find us there by doing a quick search for Hyperion Adventures Podcast. Hit subscribe, and whenever we post anything there. And if you ever want to contact us for any reason, please hit us up at our Gmail account, HyperionAdventuresPodcast@gmail.com.
That's right. We love, as we mention every week, we really love hearing from you. Some of you are more routine connectors through Gmail, but we want to invite all of you. If you have any questions or if there's something you want us to do a deep dive in, let us know.
Yeah, or if you just want to say hi.
Right.
We appreciate that. Send us a picture of what you're doing. If you have a Disney adventure you're doing or whatever, you can do it through social media or you can do it just by hitting us up in the Gmail account. We'd appreciate that very much. Also, if you want to support our show, there's a couple ways you can do that. Firstly, you can go to our Spreadshirt shop at the Hyperion Adventures Podcast Spreadshirt shop, where we have all sorts of different items, all sorts of different, t-shirts, but also things like coffee mugs, water bottles, etc., with our various different logos, from our standard traditional Hyperion Adventures Podcast logo. Our holiday logo is out there right now. Our Real Men, #RealMenLoveFrozen logo. Our I'm heading to Hyperion Adventureland. All sorts of stuff there. You can pick and choose whatever you want, and that's a great way if you just want to pick up some great merchandise, and we get a portion of that that sent back to our show as well.
Right.
And you can also be a member of our Patreon group. And I mentioned it last week. We just received them in the mail this week, so they're going to be going out soon to you. Those of you who are part of our Patreon members, you're going to get a little something holiday gifty coming in your mail. So keep an eye on your mailbox over the next few weeks. If you want to join us there, just go to patreon.com/Hyperion Adventures Podcast. Sign up. We have tiers as low as $2 per month, and we appreciate everybody who's signed up already and anybody who's thinking about signing up in the future.
That's right. As you mentioned, honey, we do appreciate those of you who have already signed up. It's really helps cover the costs of running a podcast.
Yes, we have a significant amount of costs, more than you think. You know, I mean, we don't charge for this, but we do have to, maintain equipment, put it up on a server. All this stuff does add up eventually.
Right.
And we appreciate anybody who's helped us out through this. But let's move on to what we have going on today. But first, I need to mention, yes, we have the Hyperion Adventures Disney Hall of Fame category closing off this week. But because I put the date until midnight tonight when you could put in your nominations, we haven't completely closed. Well, midnight tonight when we were recording this.
Right.
When you hear this, it'll be past. But because of that, we could still receive some more nominations. So we don't have the final ballot for you this week. However, we will have it for you next week. That is for Best Live Action Film. So anything under the Disney umbrella counts for that. And we will give you our lists and the final ballot nominees next week. Now, there will be, when you hear this, a new category open, and this will be the final category for this year. It is the Best Live Action Character. So anybody under the Disney umbrella, again, Star Wars, Marvel, Indiana Jones, The Muppets, pick and choose whatever you want. If it's under the Disney umbrella, if it's a Disney IP, it is available, except for these who have already been voted into our Hyperion Adventures Disney Hall of Fame. They are Indiana Jones, Mary Poppins, Captain Jack Sparrow, and Han Solo. Those are already in, so you don't need to worry about them. But if you send us our lists, your list of your 5-ish favorite live action characters, we'll add those, and those who receive enough votes will be on our final ballot coming up very soon now.
Very exciting.
Yes, and then near the beginning of the year, we will actually have our ceremony where we will induct, hopefully, a few more new members to our Hyperion Adventures Disney Hall of Fame.
That'll be great. It's fun. It's a fun little thing. I shouldn't say little thing. It's a fun activity. And we really appreciate those of you who have been participating.
Right. It's a fun thing that we like to get you involved with because it's always a good time. And I know it's kind of silly. I mean, yes, it's our own little Hall of Fame, whatever, but it's just a lot of fun. And we like that you take part in it. And for that final ballot, we will have some sort of giveaway that goes along with it for one of you who takes part in that. And we will let you know when that comes out, what will be included in that as well. Now, let's get to one of our favorite topics of the week, and that is my favorite thing from this week. Every week, we try and give you something near the beginning of the show that is something that's happened during the week that is kind of our favorite thing. It could be something Disney related. It could be something personal, but we like to share something with you. And if you ever want to share yours with us, we would be happy to put that out there on the show as well. But we always start with Michelle when we do these things because we know she does the best research. She has the best list. She definitely has the best tips, but she usually has the best favorite thing from this week. So Michelle, what is your favorite thing from this week? I'm
kind of putting two out there because I had something originally planned to discuss, and that was, that you and Scott both got your boosters this week, and that was really made me happy to know that we have that other level of protection now for all of us. But I guess, another thing that has happened subsequent to that was, unfortunately, at work, I was exposed to somebody who was COVID positive, and I thought I was starting to potentially see some symptoms at around the time that one would expect to. So I had to be tested first time ever first COVID test ever for me. But fortunately, the results came today and it's negative.
Yeah. I had a feeling that was what it was going to be. We've had some issues with not getting enough sleep over the last week or so for various reasons. And so you were fatigued a bit. And I said, that could be because of this. But let's be safe, especially since we're planning on going to Hamilton.
Right.
We want to, keep ourselves safe, but keep our travel mates safe, keep everybody safe. If you have symptoms, and definitely if you test positive, you shouldn't be out, where it could be spreadable, whether you feel symptoms or not.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
It's better to be safe. So Michelle went out for the test. Yeah, it's funny that this was the first test in our family. So many people have been tested numerous times. We just, for whatever reason, have never had the occasion to do it. So Michelle's first test came back negative, and we're all set to go up to Hollywood to go check out Hamilton tomorrow.
Yeah.
Fun,
so that was a relief. What about for you?
Well, my favorite thing from this week, I can't talk about yet. I can't wait till I get to talk about it, but I can't talk about it yet. So I'm going to go to another favorite thing from this week, and that is the series on Disney Plus, Hawkeye, which is phenomenal so far. 3 episodes in. I mean, it's only been 2 weeks, but we hit the first 2 episodes on week 1, right before Thanksgiving. Those dropped. And then the 3rd episode this week. It's so good so far. I'm totally wrapped into it. It's, seeing Jeremy Renner playing Hawkeye again. He's so great in that role. And Haley Steinfeld playing Kate Bishop, who is really entertaining so far in this show. But, the story is intriguing. I like that there's that holiday Christmas feel to it where, is he going to come home for Christmas?
I know. So the drama.
No spoilers here if you haven't seen the episodes yet, but I'm just really, really enjoying this show so far.
Yeah, I agree. And it's funny because when we were first looking at some of the previews of it, I'm like, I don't know if this is going to hit with me. Not that I would hate it, but I didn't know that I would really like it.
Yeah.
And it's turned out to be wonderful.
Yeah. So far, so good. Can't wait to see episode 4 and the rest of them as we lead up through the holiday season. Just really enjoyable. So also there's a news article that could be my favorite thing from this week as well, but I want to save that until I get to that news story coming up later. So
cool.
As for today's show, speaking of those stories, we have lots of stuff for you this week, including the Walt Disney Company has some new leadership near the top. We'll let you know what's going on there. A couple of guest favorite festivals are returning to the Disneyland Resort. We'll tell you which ones and when you can go attend those. Speaking of a guest favorite returning to the Happiest Place on Earth, we received some potentially great news about a classic attraction this week. That may or may not be my other favorite thing from this week. I will let you know later on. Yes. And you can stop the outcry at Walt Disney World. We'll tell you what that's all about. Enough about that, though. Let's get to our main topic of the week. So yes, our main topic this week, as we mentioned, as we were wrapping up last time, there's something that Disney does that is, it happens all the time when you go to the parks, and it's kind of underrated. It kind of can go under the radar if you're not really paying attention. And that is their ability to move people throughout the resorts, throughout the parks, in all sorts of different ways. And Michelle's been excited to do this topic for a while. She's been looking at it because she found some interesting things on there. And I can't wait to hear it because we know Michelle does the best research. So Michelle's going to tell us all about the ways that Disney moves people.
Well, thank you for the build-up, honey. You're absolutely right. The topic has intrigued me for a while now. It stemmed from a tour that we had gone on, and to hear some of the examples of how Disney moves people that I thought, wow, there's a real science to this. And like you said, there's some things that are pretty obscure to us that we don't take notice about that really play a role in how we experience Disney. So it was a topic that I was anxious to, finally delve into. And as with all of my research, I start going down one path and shoo.
What?
I know. I'm taken down to another path.
That never happens for you.
So there might be some changes, and it also kind of maybe made me think of some future topics that I could delve into.
Always like more topics for sure.
Right. So let's get into it. The concept of moving people was not just a natural necessity for Walt. Like when he was developing Disneyland, he really did embrace it. He placed great importance on it. He wanted to ensure that the method of transportations were part of the magic. So they needed to be unique and special, for the experience that the people would have when they're visiting Disneyland. So that foundation still continues today with the parks and with the cruise line. So, all right. Now, you mentioned that some of the things are obscure, that we don't notice it. And there's a lot of reason Disney moves people, and sometimes that subtleness is necessary. So obviously, sometimes it's to get people from one place to another, or from within an attraction. Sometimes it's crowd management.
It's often crowd management.
Yeah. And that could be maybe to attract people or deter people.
Right.
Sometimes it's, to help prepare you to know what's ahead. And sometimes it's just to celebrate. Like, hey, a bride to be being brought to her wedding venue in Cinderella's carriage. It's a form of transportation. It has a very special purpose there.
Very special purpose and a very special price tag.
That's true. So, there are a lot of reasons. And so we're going to touch on some of these and how they do this. But cutting edge, unique, and magical, as I mentioned, were important elements. And they have in recent years, I should say, have added sustainability as one of those qualities in moving people that the company is embracing. And I think that's really pretty important.
Yeah, definitely, especially with how many people they work and how much energy they use up on a daily basis, especially at the Walt Disney World Resort.
Right.
It's important to keep your eye on the environment as much as possible, and make things clean as you can, and not just wasteful.
Right. And I make it sound like it's recent years. It has been in place, for quite a while, but I think more recent years it's been more planned out, like their whole green efforts for everything, not just transportation or moving people.
Oh, and there's more technology has come along to allow them to do more things more easily and get things accomplished at a better price point as well.
True.
So yeah, they've done numerous things over the last several years to make it their footprint even less on the environment.
Right. That's a really good point. So, kind of going back to this foundation of transportation, we talked about with Disneyland and Walt as he was planning the Florida project, and obviously Roy took over for that. But, kind of what Walt was seeing and faced with, he had all this land, right? Like it was twice the size of Manhattan, very comparable to San Francisco. I mean, these are big major cities where transportation is a key element of the life there. And so he kind of knew this going into the Florida project, that transportation was going to be a real main element. And we've heard with some of the recordings of Walt that he actually really wanted to be kind of the founder of some new and innovative ways of moving people. And, I think if people want to listen back at one of our countdown series, we kind of played some of that. But, he really was trying to be cutting edge and looking at things to transport people differently. And so, we see that with a lot of things. But let's start with something that had actually started at Disneyland, and that was the monorail, right? I think people think of moving lots of people, the monorail comes to mind. And, what Walt actually saw in Germany of a monorail system is not really like what turned out. It's funny because reading some of the things like the Imagineers were comparing it to, they said it kind of looked like loaf of bread. It was just very boxy looking, so it really was, the genius of the Imagineers to make it look much more futuristic, much sleeker, more attractive as a means of moving people.
And we've probably only been on those monorails that are not quite as sleek and good looking as the Disney monorails in various cities and countries around the world. The Disney isn't, the exclusive owner of monorails by any stretch of the imagination, but there's just something sleek about that Disney monorail for sure.
Exactly. So, and another similar style, much more contemporary now that we see is with the Skyliner, and when the company built the Riviera, they realized they somehow, when they were planning that, knew they needed a transportation process to get people like over to Epcot or whatever. And, there were issues related to going from point A to B on, obviously you can do it by bus, but they thought, what else can we do? And, moving it above ground and doing that, which again, you go back to Walt and having those, what are the sky cab things or what? Skyway, right, at Disneyland, and he was really envisioning that more and more for Epcot, what his vision of Epcot was. So it's just, again, taking a look at transportation in a different way.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite forms of transportation at the parks. I hope they eventually extend it to some of the other locations throughout Walt Disney World, because I love the Skyliner. I think it's a blast. You get some great views. It's a good time, and it's always exciting to get on board. And maybe it's, of course the monorail is awesome. Everybody loves the monorail. I love the boats. I know some people aren't big fans of the boats. I love the boats as well, because I like being on the water. But there's something exciting about being on the Skyliner. So it's kind of the new baby of the family that everybody's like, oh, isn't it so cute? I can't wait to see it. And so it's kind of got that, it hasn't lost its luster yet. It's exciting to get on every time for me. Right.
And you bring up a really good point about the boats, especially if you're taking, like from Ticket Transportation, the ferry that takes you over to Magic Kingdom. You feel like you're going so much slower than what the monorail process is, but it's really not as significant as you would think. But it's building that anticipation that you are en route to something very magical, and it's like you can't wait for that boat to get to the other side, to get to the dock, so you can get off and start your day at the Magic Kingdom.
Right. I find it, maybe it's just me, and we tend to go to Magic Kingdom and kind of take it. We're not there usually to go, we need to go attraction. We got to be there for this. We got to be there for that. We got to be there for the other thing. We kind of go and we're like, we'll go hit that one. We have dining reservation later. We'll go hit this thing. We kind of do it at our own flow. And maybe that's the reason why we like, we don't mind taking the ferry. And some people feel like it's slow, but we don't mind it because maybe we're just taking it at our own little, leisurely pace.
It could be, but I have to say, every time I'm on that boat, I'm like, oh, when is it going to get to the dock? I mean, I'm not in a rush pace that I would think, but I'm just excited every single time. It's a different, because we don't do that methodology of getting into the park as often. I think it just makes it that much more exciting.
Yeah, it's not to be honest with you, of the boats, the ferry from the Ticket and Transportation to Magic Kingdom and back is not my favorite of them. It's fine. I like the littler boats, the ones that go from the resorts that are nearby, the ones that come from the Wilderness Lodge or Fort Wilderness or the Polynesian or the Grand Floridian. Those littler boats really are an enjoyable ride. I think it's a little bit more of an intimate experience.
Right, definitely.
And, you're a little closer to the water, and you can just kind of really enjoy taking the sights around Seven Seas Lagoon and Bay Lake, and really enjoy the whole time getting to and from the park.
That's true, and it's also helping you, kind of take a pause and, like you said, be able to appreciate and look at the things around you.
Yes, for sure.
All right. And one of the things that is also, kind of cute and unique and, Walt initiated was the different street carriages down Main Street, USA, so I mean, it does serve a purpose. It is part of the crowd management, trying to pull people more and more from that entrance so it doesn't get bottlenecked there. But it's actually part of the entertainment, you know?
Yeah, it pulls in that small town USA vibe, which is what he wanted on Main Street. You know, you'll have on that, you know, the bus, the classic carriage going down, the little motor car where you can ride in the back or whatever, and all those are there on Main Street USA. I mean, sometimes, more often at Disneyland, you'll see them than at Walt Disney World, at Magic Kingdom. Magic Kingdom, they are sometimes there, but they tend to, you know, it gets crowded enough that they tend to close them down pretty early. But when they're there, it's pretty special and highly encouraged. It's something that you don't get the chance to do very often. Highly encourage you take advantage of it when you get the chance to do it.
Right. You know, and if you really pay attention to it, it's part of the immersive experience, you know, of that what's you're around with Main Street USA.
Agreed. You can walk up and down Main Street USA anytime you want. It's great. Love Main Street USA. But it's that, especially at Magic Kingdom, it's that rare occasion where you can take it in a different way that maybe you've never done before. You could have gone many, many times, and because it's not available all the time, you may have never had that opportunity. Take advantage of that opportunity if it comes to you.
Right. I mean, and if you think about it, you're kind of like the VIP, right? One, you're being driven. But the other thing, too, is that, you know, they have the horns or the bells to get the people out of your way so you can make it down to Main Street. So it's pretty cool in that regard, you know, and the fact that they're even, you know, have the low tech of even horse-drawn carriages. So pretty cool. And
you'll learn like about the horse, you know, they'll tell you the name of the horse and everything about him. Whoever is the cast member that is, you know, either with the driver or usually sometimes there's an assistant with them as well. They will, you know, give you some information, and they're usually they're fairly open about talking about what the transportation is like, where the cars come from, you know, the animal's name and how long they've been with Disney and everything else. It is
that's true.
You get some good information as well on that little trip up and down Main Street USA.
That's so true. Very good point. Hadn't even thought of that. So excellent. You know, and another big form of transportation that Disney introduced a couple decades ago, I guess, was the Disney Cruise Line.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so it's a new form of travel, but that it's also contained and provides entertainment and food and everything else like that. So, all right.
One of our favorite
things.
Of Disney transportation. Just a few weeks away now. 3 weeks, right? 3 weeks from today as this episode is dropping?
I think so, yeah.
Yes.
So, obviously, attractions, right? That's a fun way of moving people. It's contained, I guess you'd say, for the most part, although there's some attractions that have taken people from one location to another, and that's just how it is. But I want to see, honey, and test your knowledge of some of the technology and fun facts related to some of the attractions.
Okay, a test. This is probably not going to go well for me, but okay, I'm in. Let's do it.
No, I think this first one you probably get. All right. So, what was the first roller coaster in the world to employ a tubular steel track and an electronic dispatch system, which enabled the more than one car to be used on the track at a time?
Well, this I do know, and that is the Matterhorn bobsleds.
Right.
The original Disney Mountain, and yes, all those things also are attributed to the Matterhorn bobsleds at Disneyland.
Exactly. Yes. So see, good. 1 for 1 there, honey. You're doing well.
Can we stop now?
And I hope those of you listening are playing along too. All right, so let's get your geek on here. Talking about technology.
I'm always getting my geek on.
I know. Okay, this one I think you're going to get partial credit.
Okay.
But you might surprise me and get full credit. So we'll see.
Usually I get no credit.
Because I'll be honest, without my research, I would only have gotten partial credit on this one.
Okay.
All right. So there are 2 very popular attractions, one at Walt Disney World, one at Disney California Adventure Park, that uses a linear induction motor. So what are they?
A linear induction motor.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be...
One of them is one of your favorites.
I don't know. I actually don't know. So
all right, I'll give you a hint.
Okay, wait. Before I do get a hint, where are they again? They're at Disney California Adventure Park and what part of Walt Disney World? And Magic Kingdom. Yeah, I don't know.
You want a hint?
Okay.
Okay, one word hint. Magnets.
And fail.
I think as soon as I say it, you'll like, oh, for sure. People mover.
Oh.
TTA people mover.
See, I was fooled because, it's the people mover at Magic Kingdom. What it is at Disney California Adventure Park.
Right? It's the Incredicoaster.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so the launch sequence.
Okay. That
All
makes
right.
sense.
So the way it works is that there's an electrical current that is applied. Moving magnetic field then gets generated, and that induces secondary magnet fields attached to the vehicles to make it move along. So for the Incredicoaster, the electricity fed to their motors is controlled from a 100-yard long room that is beneath the ride. Pretty cool, right?
Pretty cool, yeah.
Another little fun fact about the People Mover is that was a name that Walt pegged while they were in development, but it just seemed to stick. So it wasn't really the plan to name that as People Mover, but it worked.
Wasn't it originally the Wedway or something like that?
Yeah,
and
the Wedway
People
Mover.
The People Mover just mostly stuck. I mean, the TTA and everything.
Right.
But most people just know it by the People Mover.
Right. So another fun fact, and let's see if you know about this one. It's not that I don't have faith in you, but I think it's a long shot.
I have no faith in me either, so that's just fine.
Okay, this is like a trivia question. So do you know where outside of a Disney park you can find this type of Wedway Enterprise technology?
No, I don't. I'll make it easy on you. I don't. No.
So at George Bush International in Houston, Texas. In 1981, Disney's wet transportation systems were brought in to build that system. So if you're at that airport taking the subway, you're actually riding a piece of Disney history.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever been to that airport. I've never had to connect to a flight there.
Yeah, I don't think I have either. So, I mean, they do have another system as well that is, again, above, overhead, more above ground. But that subway system is still there, and that's what, comes from Disney. But if you think about it again, it was part of Walt's dream, right? He wanted to be on the cutting edge of how, businesses, companies, cities would apply his ideas of transportation. And there it happened.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
Great use of it. For sure.
All right. Last one.
Oh, boy. I should have stopped at the first one. I really should have.
No. I think you might get this one. Which ride features a first of its kind design to allow each car to swing independently from side to side as they move along the track?
That's Seven Dwarfs Mine Train.
Ta-da! Very good. Yes.
50%. That's a solid F.
No, that's a C.
No, it's not. I've gotten 50% on tests. There was no C in red ink on that. That was a giant F.
Great on a curve. I think those were kind of tough ones. Those, if we were playing Trivial Pursuit, those would be tough. So,
and people who are listening to my answer said, "Yeah, it doesn't surprise me that you got a lot of giant Fs on your page."
No, not at all. You're pretty smart. So, we could obviously spend the rest of this episode talking about unique elements of attraction vehicles and how they work. But really, that wasn't the focus today. And so, again, this is, like I said, when I was kind of going down this path, thinking, okay, at some point that might be also a potential topic for us. So.
There we go. More topics, always good.
Right. So let's look at some processes and strategies that Disney uses for, let's say steering people. So one of the ways that they use this, and it's like a no-tech way, all right, is the use of styling, like whether it's colors of surroundings or pathways. It's how do they entice or deter people? And we see this really most evident in attractions, let's say, that are focused for really little kids. So if you think about Toontown, everything there looks very, billowy and cartoony, that it's something that kids can feel comfortable approaching. And, so it's a way to kind of help guide families with little kids to kind of know this is a good area for
safe
there.
Place and good place to play.
Right, right. So I don't know if you have other examples that kind of pop out to mind for you.
Well, I mean, the biggest one is the castles themselves at the end of Main Street, USA. That is that big landmark at the end of there, that draws everybody down there, and then you spread off through the hub to the various different locations. That's what Walt wanted, was that thing at the end to draw people in. And then usually you go into these lands, and there will be something that will draw your eye immediately to that area and kind of draw you through those lands as best as possible.
And we're going to talk a little bit about those.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Good example, though. Equally effective, if you're talking about that same population of the little ones, is scenery, pathways, and even sounds that might deter kids to wanting to go towards something that the company knows might actually be a little too much for them. So if you think of like the Tower of Terror or Expedition Everest, how they look kind of massive, but even that you can hear the screams, and so it is kind of a way to help, where the actual elements of the ride in its appearance can help prevent people who may not enjoy it from trying to get onto it.
Yeah, we learned a little bit of that. Actually, the Disney Cruise Line does that as well. I don't know. Do you have a line on that?
I do have a little thing about that.
I will save it. I will save that for you.
So yeah, I'm going to talk about that in a second, but still kind of going on with this other element of, the thing that deters maybe kids from wanting to, say, mommy or daddy, I want to go on that. Those are kind of the elements that draw adults, especially adults who are, thrill seekers, to know, hey, this is where I want to go. So again, it's just visual and other sensual cues that can help guide people to what they want to do.
Completely makes sense. Yeah.
Right. So, kind of going back to with what we were saying in terms of visual cues that Walt used, and you just said a little bit about it a second ago, of, kind of pulling people into different lands. And the company used a term for a long time. It's not embraced by the company anymore. It's called weenies.
Yes. Heard that term.
Yes.
Used by Disney. I've heard it in other forms too, but yes, used by Disney.
But the concept is there, right? The concept of how do you draw people away from being in a bottleneck area. So like when you're thinking of, Disneyland or the Magic Kingdom, the fact that it's designed like spokes to a wheel, and you have things, whether it's the castle that is that weenie to draw you, or even just the entrances or within the lands, something visual you'll see from the outside that will catch your attention and draw you towards those things. And so, one of the things you might want to think about the next time you go to a park is try to look to see what is steering you towards a particular area.
Look for the weenies.
Look for the weenies. No. Yes.
No. That's
Oh, okay. Okay, now getting back to what you were talking about, Disney Cruise Line.
Away from the weenies?
Yes, and away from the weenies.
Sorry, I'm like 5.
No, that's all right. And I feel like this is kind of bouncing around. It's like, I had 2 cups of tea today. But anyway.
Oh, boy.
I know. But as you alluded to earlier, Disney Cruise Line really helps direct people also with these visual cues. And they also kind of help prepare you for what's ahead. So like if you're going in the stairwells, the staircases, let's say you're going to the staircases that will ultimately lead you to the pool. What they use to prepare you for that and kind of reinforce you're in the right place, but you don't even notice it, or maybe, your brain notices it, but you don't think about it, is they'll have artwork, related to like water sports or sports activities, and so it just, you don't even realize it, but you're going in the right place to what you're trying to get to. So, I think that's really cool how they do that. They also have a way of, just the design of areas that attract or deter people. And we talked about it before, I think in another episode, but like for the adult areas, to try to really deter kids or teens even from, wandering into those, adult only areas, is how they have the design set up that it's just not attractive to them. It just doesn't show anything of interest that would make a teen or a kid feel like, yeah, I want to go that way. So they tend to then move away from that and go towards other areas that are set up to attract them, that are more appealing for kids and teens, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that they use on Disney Cruise Line for helping move crowds, I guess if you want to say that, and to know you're going the direction you want to go, is just in the carpeting in the hallways. So if you're, they have the design so it's facing correctly if you're moving towards the front of the ship. So if you're walking down one of the corridors of Disney Cruise Line and you look down at the pattern on the floor and see that it's upside down, well, you're going to the rear of the ship, the aft of the ship.
Yeah, if you know that fact, but yeah, that is exactly how they're laid out, so you can kind of have an idea. And there's also port and starboard on the carpet as well, so you know which side of the ship you're on.
That's true.
Yeah.
I'd forgotten about that.
So you can kind of, in case, because you can get turned around very easily on a cruise ship. It happens to us all the time. But when you look at, if you get to know the carpet and know which way is pointing to port, which way is pointing to starboard,
right,
you can find your way through on the ship a little bit more easily.
That's right. Good thing there.
Yeah.
So moving right along.
Wait, one more thing about the Disney cruise that
yes.
is kind of enticing to children is that the level where the Oceaneer Lab and the Oceaneer Club are, those are actually, they're not as tall. The corridors there are not as tall as some of the other corridors, right, most of the other corridors throughout the ship. So the children don't feel as intimidated.
Right.
It's more at their height. Yes, it's still obviously a lot taller than them.
Right.
But it's a little less intimidating to not have this massive high ceiling around them.
That's right. I'd forgotten about that. Mm-hmm. Very good, honey. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Moving right along.
So see what you did there.
I know, right? So we're going to go to, maybe the use of minimal technology for moving people and crowd management. But first, we want to kind of look at the why. And so what the Disney Company recognized is there had been an emergence of a culture shift towards, more of that the guests want and expect, satisfy my needs quickly, and so they
really,
I know. So they realized they really needed to implement prompts that would have responses quickly and strategies that could really help guide and make the access to entertainment easier and quicker for people. So how did they do that? Well, for example, at Magic Kingdom, they developed a command center under Cinderella's castle, and they used video cameras, computer programs, digital park maps for allowing them to have early detection of gridlocks. So, and then they could really then deploy some countermeasures to handle it.
Countermeasures. Dive.
For real-time, solutions. So, for example, let's say they're monitoring the attractions, and they kind of use like this green, yellow, red status for the wait times. So let's say, for example, in the Pirates of the Caribbean, if that status light goes from a green to, say, a yellow, they can alert a manager to launch more boats.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Another way too is like if in Fantasyland, let's say they notice the crowds are really kind of building, say something, had just ended and people are kind of moving in that direction, and it's starting to get a little gridlock there, but Tomorrowland might be, pretty open, lot less people over there. Hey, they can deploy a cavalcade or some roaming characters to draw people from Fantasyland to Tomorrowland, for example, to disperse some of that gridlock, some of that crowd, so, pretty, relatively simple technology, but, still pretty effective.
Very effective. Yeah. And it's good to know. And I know that they do that with a lot of things as far as, yes, easily that they do deploy cavalcades or whatever it may be, more boats. They also do it as simply as just, we've talked about many times about how the wait times have a little padding in them. Sometimes there's more padding there or less padding depending on where they want you, where they feel you could go to kind of disperse people to different attractions. I mean, a big part of the padding is because they'd rather you have a shorter time than listed when you go through there, because you're going to feel better about your wait when it says 45 minutes and you only waited 35. You're like, wow, that wasn't as bad as it looked to be than if it was 45 and you had to wait 50. And you're going to like, oh, see, and they said 45 and it's 50. So they give the padding to kind of you know, give you that little buffer and make you feel a little better about the wait. But it's also done to try and, you know, drive people to other attractions that maybe aren't getting as many people in their queue.
That's an excellent point. So that use of technology doesn't end there. Disney uses big guns of technology too, as we know. So, and I'm going to sound really smart now.
You always sound really smart.
So in my research, I found out that they use artificial intelligence to develop predictive models.
I have artificial unintelligence over here.
Were you pointing to me?
No, it's me. Actually, it's real unintelligence over here. Nothing artificial about it.
So again, this topic would be way over my head, although interesting. But I'll share with you why, an example of why it's over my head. So in my research,
everything's over your head. You're only like 5 feet tall.
That's true. So this is a portion of one of their abstracts related to crowd behavior. The focus to date has been on analyzing the properties of low-level features such as pedestrian trajectories or global features such as crowd densities. We propose a new approach based on finding latent path patterns in both real and simulated data in order to analyze and compare them. Unsupervised clustering by non-parametric Bayesian inference is used to learn the patterns, which themselves provide a rich visualization of the crowd's behavior. To this end, we present a new stochastic, variational, dual, hierarchical, dielectric process, or SV-DHDP model. The fidelity of the pattern is then computed with respect to a reference, thus allowing the outputs of different algorithms to be compared with each other and or with real data accordingly.
Wow. I understood all of that. I mean, if you didn't, well, I just can't help you. It was pretty easy laid out there. No, I don't understand. I had 2 words out of that.
So obviously, really, really smart people are looking at,
which is good,
crowd management.
I'm glad they're much smarter than me, because it would be a really tough day at Disney if I was trying to design up how people should get around through these parks.
Right. But yeah, so artificial intelligence. And there's also other really interesting things about artificial intelligence. And so here we get to the part where if you're a subscriber to our newsletter, we are going to give you a special link to a site that Disney has that's probably not very well known, related to their technology research and development.
Really cool. And,
yeah.
And what doesn't even need have a 5-foot person to go over your head. This went well over my head. I'm not Drax. I can't just jump up and catch it. It really went over both of our heads.
Right.
But that'd be an interesting website to check out and see what they're doing there.
And, and you can, like I said, it doesn't have to do with the things that I found. Some interesting things weren't related to transportation, which is why I'm not discussing it here, but it is there at their website, and some of the things that they're planning to use artificial or are using artificial intelligence in the development phase right now is mind-boggling. So,
wow.
But what we can conclude from this, like I said, there's very smart people working on it, but the company is really deep into research and technology to affect a magical experience for the
very
guest.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds like great stuff for sure. Interesting stuff. Yeah.
Cool.
And stuff that, again, well over my head.
And if it's not over your head, you're a very smart person. So
Yes.
bravo.
Yes.
So, and again, this kind of, we're seeing this with Genie, right? It's using advanced high technology computer algorithms for really help guiding and managing crowds and, assisting them to have quicker and easier access to the fun.
And I think that is, I know there have been some problems with Genie, people, but I think it's going to be a progressive thing with it.
Right.
It's going to learn how people think and what they do, and it'll adapt eventually, hopefully. Right. So it will be more functional for you when you're in the parks.
Exactly. So, kind of in conclusion, we can see from no tech to AI, Disney has various levels of strategies to effectively and uniquely move people for ultimately magical experiences.
Yes, and they do it very well. Disney's, again, I feel it's like one of their most underrated skills. If it's not the most underrated, it's definitely up there in the top several, because it's you don't even think about it, but they're doing it all the time. Right. And it's really impressive. And sometimes you do think about it, how great the transportation is. I mean, Disney transportation, people don't love the buses, but they're free and they do get you where you want to go when you're staying on resort property.
And there are times it's wonderful, like when it's super hot outside or raining and you get to be inside an air-conditioned bus.
Right, exactly. And the monorail, the Skyliner, we love the boats. Some people don't love them as much. I love them, all of them. The friendship boats, all the boats that go in between the resorts. I really appreciate them all. And, and those are the obvious things, not these other things that Michelle brought up and the things that are way over our head that we're glad they have smart people there putting into place. But really important, and Disney does an amazing job of it.
Right. And on a, personal interest level, I've always been very interested in the history of Disney, and just to kind of see how, that very important foundation has continued to play an important role within the organization. It's pretty cool to see. And, I'll be honest, it was hard editing today's topic because there were a lot of pathways that I wanted to really incorporate. And so it may, I don't know. To me, it felt like I've left out a lot of things because I know what I edited out, but hopefully you found it interesting.
I found it tremendously interesting, and I always do. Your research is always the best. Learn new things. I fail a quiz, and it's always really good.
That wasn't my goal, honey.
It doesn't have to be a goal. It's really easy to do with me, but no, it was a great job. Michelle's research, always the best research.
Well, thank you.
Well, let us know what your favorite form of Disney transportation is, or how you enjoy the way that Disney moves people.
Right.
We'd love to know. Let us know. Send it to us on social media, share our Gmail account, whatever, and we will share it on an upcoming show.
Exactly.
And that is Moving People, Disney's most underrated skill. All right, great job again, Michelle.
Thank you,
always do such interesting work and find so many intriguing facts with some of these research pieces you do. I think I know I've heard from the listeners out there, and I know you love them. I hope you do love them as much as I do, because I find her stuff fascinating, and I appreciate all the work she does to put these together for us.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I also
very
appreciate
much.
it because it's less work that I have to do. I can concentrate on failing quizzes.
You're funny.
Let's get to the work I did. Let's get to the Disney stories of the week. Actually, the work I did was mostly copying and pasting, but still these are stories of the week that I think will be of interest to you. And I'm going to start with the Walt Disney Company welcomes some new leadership at the top. Mm-hmm. This from a website Michelle loves, CNBC.com.
Yeah.
They say that Susan Arnold is taking over as Disney's chairman of the board, the company announced on Wednesday.
Yay.
So she'll be replacing Bob Iger when he resigns officially effective on December 31st.
Right. And I'm not yaying Bob Iger leaving. I'm just glad she's taking the lead.
Yes. It's good that we have somebody new at the top and somebody with a different point of view. And I love Bob Iger and all he's done for the company, but we knew he was going anyway. He's already stepped down as CEO, and now he will also be stepping down as chairman of the board. He's been there since 2012. So, it's been quite a while.
Right.
When we get to the end of the year, it'll be 10 years. So
yeah,
that's pretty impressive.
And I mean, it was planned.
It was planned. Yeah, this isn't sudden. It's not like they're
Right.
firing him or anything. So it'll be interesting to see what comes with this. Bob Chapek is still, I know to some of your chagrin, is still the official CEO right now. This is the chairman of the board, which actually in many ways, Bob Chapek answers to.
Right.
So just know that going in. So as far as Susan Arnold, she's been on Disney's board for 14 years and has served as the independent lead director since 2018. She was an operating executive at the Carlyle Group until this year. She served as president of the global business units of Procter & Gamble from 2007 to 2009 and was also a member of the board at McDonald's from 2008 to 2016. Bob Iger had this to say in a statement. He said, quote, "Having most recently served as independent lead director, Susan is the perfect choice for chairman of the board, and I am confident the company is well positioned for continued success under her guidance and leadership," end quote. So Bob Iger likes it.
Yeah.
It seems like obviously the board agrees with it, and it'd be good to see what happens with this going forward.
That's right.
So congratulations to her on that new role within the Disney company. Now, moving on to the parks, a couple of guest favorite festivals are returning to the Disneyland Resort. We are very excited to hear about this. This from the Disney Parks blog. They said, on Thursday, we are delighted to share that 2 fan favorite limited time festivals will be back next year at Disney California Adventure Park. The Lunar New Year celebration will take place from January 21st through February 13th of 2022. And Disney California Adventure Food and Wine Festival will run from March 4th through April 26th, 2022. So mark your calendars.
Yes. It's well worth it.
Yes.
Lots of fun.
Both of those events are fun, really exciting. So here are some of the highlights that are what you can expect from these festivals, starting with the Lunar New Year celebration at Disney California Adventure Park. They say it's a joyous celebration that commemorates traditions of Chinese, Korean, and Vietnamese cultures. The festival is filled with multicultural performances, special activities, culinary delights, beautiful decor, celebratory merchandise, and more. Of course, there's always merchandise. In 2022, they say we will be celebrating the Year of the Tiger at the Lunar New Year Festival. I didn't know what the year was, but the Year of the Tiger again this year. So interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually thought it was a different animal.
So since it is the Year of the Tiger, new this year, Tigger will join in on the fun. I love that. Yes. Along with beloved Disney characters such as Mulan and Mushu, Mickey and Minnie, of course, the Three Little Pigs and more, all donning their festive attire.
Nice.
Yeah. Adding to the excitement of Lunar New Year, Raya from Walt Disney Animation Studios' film Raya and the Last Dragon will be appearing for the very first time at Disneyland Resort during the celebration. You'll be able to see Raya in a setting inspired by her native Kumandra, recreated in the Redwood Creek Challenge Trail. So that's kind of a cool space and interesting.
That is. Yeah.
I wonder if they're going to make, because it was, what was it? Tail, spine, talon, fang, and heart were the, if I'm not mistaken, those were the 5.
Very impressive,
lands.
honey.
I love
How
Raya
did you
and the Last
not pass
Dragon.
that trivia test?
I know stupid things that mean nothing, not the really interesting stuff. So that'll be interesting if those are all put within the Redwood Creek area. But I'm looking forward to checking that out when that comes.
Yeah.
Also, the captivating Mulan's Lunar New Year procession will return. This bright and bold performance, hosted by Mulan and her faithful dragon Mushu, will feature dozens of spirited parade performers as they honor family, friendship, and the potential for a fortune-filled new year. Live musical entertainment will also be enjoyed at the Paradise Garden Bandstand. The Sip and Savor Pass will be back for extra enjoyment as you taste your way through the 4 Lunar New Year marketplaces, all featuring delicious Asian cuisine. Additionally, there will be special Lunar New Year inspired food and beverage offerings at select dining locations throughout the park. And other cherished Lunar New Year traditions, including the Lucky Wishing Well and craft activities, will also be enjoyed at this year's celebration.
So happy it's coming back. We've enjoyed it in the past, and it's just visually beautiful. What they, I mean, the experiences, the food is great too. I mean, but I think that people would expect, but it's just, like I said, visually taken to a new level.
Yeah, and so many ways to kind of indoctrinate yourself into some other cultures and know a little bit more about them. And and, sample some great food
Right.
and enjoy some wonderful entertainment and a lot of characters and situations that we've grown to know and love over the years.
Right,
So,
exactly.
So cool. So excited for that one. Also excited for the Disney California Adventure Food and Wine Festival. And in 2022, family and friends will come together to get a taste of what they've been missing at this festival. You'll be able to explore California regions and neighborhoods in a number of ways, from the delicious fare to the vibrant entertainment, fun festival merchandise. Again, there's always merchandise and more. During the festival, you'll get to taste your way through a dozen festival marketplaces that offer an assortment of mouthwatering bites and beverages for every palate. There will also be the option to purchase a sip and savor pass again to enjoy the unique marketplace offerings. Complimentary culinary demonstrations with local celebrity and Disney chefs will return for the whole family to enjoy on Saturdays and Sundays during the festival. You want to sign up for those early, especially if there's a celebrity chef or whatever, because those will fill up quickly. So, and they do have usually there is a charge with that, just know going in. But we don't have the details on that yet. But when they come out and you get the chance, if there's something you really love, you want to sign up for that as early as possible.
Exactly.
And for those looking to enhance their festival experience, special signature events will also be available to book and purchase, including the Carthay Circle winemaker receptions and wine, beer, and mixology education and tasting seminars. One of those wine tasting seminars is when we got to speak to Kurt Russell and his Gogi winery, which was a surprise announcement. We did not know he was going to be there.
Right.
We had some thoughts that maybe he might be. We knew we loved
There
his
were rumors.
wine. But when he actually made his appearance there, that was really, really
very
fun.
cool. Yeah. And there's been other times that we've gone and they didn't have, maybe a celebrity, but definitely somebody who brings a lot of knowledge to the wines that you get to experience.
Yeah,
and taste.
Usually you get one of the winemakers there, so they will know more about it than anything else, and so they give you a peek into how the wine is made, what to look for from the wine, and I'm just talking about wine. Obviously, there's mixology, there's beer tasting.
Right.
The people that bring a lot of knowledge, and they are usually very interesting and entertaining people as well.
Right. I mean, and considering wine is a major industry in the state of California, it just fits the theming pretty perfectly.
As is beer, craft beer, huge in California. There's many other places around the country that are big too, but especially in Southern California, we have craft beer has become a huge thing. So entertainment will fill the festival stages with live musical performances at the Palisade stage and the Paradise Gardens bandstand, and visits with Chef Goofy and friends and craft activities as well. So looking forward to that very much.
Right. I remember going to one time Chef Goofy preparing something, and the show is just adorable.
Yeah, it is cute. So looking forward to when that kicks off here in just a few months' time. So they don't have complete details yet, but I'm sure we'll get more in the months to come very soon. So now moving on, speaking of another guest favorite returning to the happiest place on earth, we received some potentially great news about a classic attraction. And again, this could have been my favorite thing from this week. This from the Orange County Register website, ocregister.com. They say it took a small village of more than 20 Disneyland departments to repair and reopen. Yay. It's a small world in time for Christmas after a flood threatened to shutter the classic boat ride for the entire holiday season. We were hearing recently, and I kind of brought it up on last week's episode, that it may not be open for several months because of this flood that happened, and it happened right before they were getting set to open it for the It's a Small World holiday, which people look forward to every year. So this is really, really great news. They went on to say It's a Small World is expected to reopen next week. So this week, actually, coming up here. According to Disneyland officials, Disneyland began testing Small World boats along the water canals of the attraction on Thursday, December 2nd. So they're testing, getting it ready to go. Such great news that it may be reopening soon. Right.
And it interesting just to hear all the like they said, the village, all the elements of departments and entities that came together to kind of save this classic attraction.
Yeah, so here's what happened. If you don't know this story, the flood that happened in the early morning hours on November 10th, just before It's a Small World holiday was set to make its 2021 Christmas debut at the theme park, they said the brains of the attraction were damaged when the 8-foot deep maintenance room under Small World load and unload station filled with water, submerging the electrical equipment. You can imagine what that did to it. And ride controls that operate the water pumps and load station conveyor belts. So, I mean, you can't get that going. You can't get people in and on the attraction. I mean, what are you going to do? So they said after assessing the damage, crews figured out what could be salvaged and what needed to be replaced. Then the race was on to find replacement parts and get them delivered quickly amid supply chain issues we all know about. So that exacerbated this whole situation. So it was a worldwide effort. They went to the small worlds from the parks around the world, stretching from France to Florida, China, Japan, to get it up and running again. Everybody chipped in, and thank you to all those parks for getting that up and running so we can enjoy this wonderful, wonderful attraction. I mean, yes, of course, for the holiday season, but it could have been closed for months going forward. And that it's up and running again very soon, possibly as early as this week, is just wonderful, wonderful news.
Yeah. What a relief to hear that great news. But it's just heartwarming how, obviously it's a company trying to, make sure something is available. But the fact that it is such a beloved experience for young and old to see that at the holidays, it's fantastic.
Yeah, and it's the original. It's the one that was at the 64 World's Fair, and it's... and they could have just, worked on it and just lit the backdrop, and that's still beautiful. We saw it on the Disney Holiday Special. That was the other night, and it looked beautiful as always. But there's something also about having that attraction, and you don't get that if you've been to Walt Disney World. But it's so wonderful because they mix in the Christmas carols with the It's a Small World, and it's just so fun and vibrant and beautiful, and it does make such a great part of the holiday season for us out here on the West Coast.
So special.
Yeah, for sure. So great news. Very happy for that. Looking forward to trying that out here, hopefully in a few weeks. We have a weekend schedule where it's the last weekend of the holidays there, and even though it'll be technically past the holidays, looking forward to getting a little taste of it during those days. Since we can't get out there right now, we're doing another thing for the holidays, Disney related, coming up here in a few weeks.
Right. Well, plus the park reservations were pretty popular this time of year. Yeah. So getting reservation was...
Well, for Magic Key holders, it can be tough, because they save a lot of it right now with a lot of these slots, a lot of the reservations for people who purchase tickets.
Right.
So they have that availability. Then what they do is they see that if the tickets aren't selling, if they're not using up the reservations for those, then they will regularly dump more out there for Magic Key holders. So, and a lot of us, our Magic Key, our personal Magic Key is not through much of the holidays coming up here. We are blocked out.
Right.
So there's just times we can't go as well. Not only is there not reservations available, we just can't go.
Sure.
But if you are a Magic Key holder and you look on there and you see that there's no reservations available during dates that you are available to go, keep checking back.
Right.
Look at the tickets, see what reservations are available for people who purchase tickets. That'll tell you if there's a possibility that they might be dumped on you later, but you got to pay attention because as soon as they get dumped, they start getting snatched up by all those key holders that don't have a reservation yet. So be prepared for that. Finally, let's move to the final story of the week, and that is you can stop the outcry at Walt Disney World because something people have been begging for is set to return very soon. This is really quickly from Disney Park social media accounts. Driver, you are clear to spread a little holiday cheer because, yes, the parking trams will be returning to Magic Kingdom Park later this month and other Walt Disney World theme parks throughout 2022. So those of you who have been peppering the social media timelines with when are they getting the trams back, good news, the trams are coming back.
That's hilarious how you presented it. But yeah, it's great news. I'm happy.
Yes, of course. It's good to know that part of the reason why the trams haven't been running is because they just haven't had the staffing for it. I mean, if you're ever looking to get a job at Walt Disney World or Disneyland, there are jobs available
Yeah.
for you there right now. They've been struggling to get staffing, as many businesses have across the country.
Right.
And they've been struggling as well. And, when they were looking at places to put people in, maybe the trams were secondary, third, fourth, they were down there. But, the fact that it seems like they're ready to get them up and running again means it looks like maybe some of the staffing issues, they're coming around a little bit better. The better the staffing, the more entertainment we're going to get, the more dining choices we're going to have. And yes, things like the trams are coming back. So it's another way of moving people, by the way. And that Disney does very well. And people will obviously be very happy that they're coming back.
Yes, that's true. That's true. I should have probably highlighted it because of the time that it was announced.
So no word on Disneyland yet, but I expect that Disneyland won't be too far behind when they get their trams going as well. So we will keep you attuned to that when we find out more about that. So that's it for the Disney stories of the week. However, we never leave you without giving you some sort of tip that might help you on your next vacation. And when we do this, we always start with Michelle. One, because she's wonderful, gorgeous, hardworking.
So
she
sweet.
definitely does the best research, as you heard today. She has the best list, but we know absolutely she has the very best tip. So let's get to it. Here is Michelle's tip of the week.
Well, thank you. My tip, it's somewhat part of what we talked about today and part of what I've shared as a tip in the past. But it talks about, we talked about moving along, but we also talked about being mindful and noticing things that do draw your attention, and to realize that so many details were purposefully added throughout the park. And, the more that you can take the time to appreciate those, the better storytelling you'll experience, the better magic you can find, and just more appreciation for the whole park, etc. So it kind of goes with the look up, or however you want to look at it, or look for the weenies. But just, realize that there are some very wonderful details available to you to experience throughout your visit to a Walt Disney park or cruise line.
Maybe look for the weenies should be our next logo.
No,
I guess maybe not. Maybe that wouldn't work. Yeah. No, that's a good point. Michelle, you always have the best tips.
No.
But yeah, definitely take the time, because they put things in interesting places for a reason. Sometimes it's just to celebrate somebody, and sometimes it is because they want you to notice it in a certain way for certain reasons. And it's always a fun, especially when you've been to the parks multiple times and you're just looking for new things to experience. Doing things like that, can add something to a park that you've been to multiple times, and something you may discover things you've never seen before.
Right. Like
noticed.
I said, it's part of the storytelling.
Yep, for sure. So Michelle's tips,
you're
always the
kind.
best tips. As a matter of fact, I think I'm stealing one of Michelle's tips for this week from the past, but I think it's something that's good to bring up once again every once in a while. And we're thinking about this because we are going to be making some requests for our Disney cruise that's coming up soon. But I'm going to more talk about resort stays at the Walt Disney World Resort, or the Disneyland Resort for that matter. And that is, if you want to make some sort of room request for your stay while you're there, there are reasons why you might want to do that. Yeah, you can just go in willy-nilly and see what room they give you, and they'll probably give you a nice room, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But if there is a reason, like you're looking for a specific room, maybe there's been some rooms or area of the resort that you've stayed in before that you really loved, you might want to request those and see if they're available for you. There's no guarantee on any of these, but it's worth it to take a shot at it. If you like maybe a room on a higher floor or a lower floor, whatever you want, you can ask for that. Nearer to the transportation, away from the elevator and the ice machine.
Or maybe close to the elevator.
Yeah, you can all ask for many of those things, or it's all what you kind of want from your stay while you're there. Now, if you're staying on property as a standard guest, paying by cash, credit card, etc., here's how you're going to go about doing it. You're going to want to call the Disney Resort Hotel Reservations line. So that number is 407-939-4357. Again, 407-939-4357. And they'll make a note on your reservation of your request. Again, there's no guarantees but a lot of times if they see a note, they'll try their best to put you in the situation that you're looking for. Now, if you're a Disney Vacation Club member and you've booked your room through your membership using your points, you'll want to call member services instead to make a request. Those numbers are you can either call 407-566-3100, again, 407-566-3100, or 800 500-3990, 800-500-3990. So you can do those ways, and that's how you can make your request for these rooms. Now, what I will tell you is that right now, especially, again, we talked about not having enough personnel. Well, there are a lot of wait times on the phone to try and get through to these, and it may be something that is a very simple request. Well, another way you can do this is have a travel agent book your resort stay, and then they can do it for you. Yeah. You do have to do it. You don't pay them anything extra for this, and you don't pay them anything, as a matter of fact, more than what the price of your resort stay, whether you booked it yourself or whether they booked it. They get paid by Disney, and they can do this work and wait on hold for you.
Right. No, very good. Very good tip, baby.
Yeah. So again, I think this is one of Michelle's tips I've taken from the past, but I thought it'd be good to bring up once again.
Sure.
Yeah. So that's it for this week. Next week, well, we're working on it. I don't know exactly what next week's topic is.
I thought I had put
we have something in mind, but I can't lock it in yet for sure, because a couple things have to happen to make that sure that this works.
Oh, okay.
But we'll have something fun for you one way or the other, as we try to do every single week.
I was going to say, I thought we've had things filled in, but I know what you're saying.
I don't know if we can be sure of it yet, but I'm going to make every effort to make that topic be a possibility. If it's not this week, it'll be coming up soon. So, anyway, we appreciate that you joined us today. In the future, you can find us most everywhere you get podcasts. However, the very best place to find us is on our own website, HyperionAdventuresPodcast.com. And while you're there,
we'd love for you to participate by joining our newsletter group.
Please sign in for the newsletter, and it's just another way to be involved in the Hyperion Adventures podcast world. Another great way is to follow us on social media. We're on Twitter at Hyperion Podcast, Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest at Hyperion Adventures Podcast. If you are on Facebook, come on over and join us for some positive Disney energy in our Hyperion Adventurers Facebook group. We're having lots of fun with a lot of you there.
Yeah, it continues to grow.
It's amazing.
A lot of fun people.
Every day I look at it and there's at least a couple more people that seem to have joined, and it really excites me every single time.
Right.
So thank you to anybody who's come along for the ride and is having fun on that group. Also, we are on YouTube. Please check us out there. Just do a quick search for Hyperion Adventures Podcast. Hit subscribe. You'll know whenever we put up a video there. And if you ever want to contact us for any reason, please hit us up at our Gmail account, HyperionAdventuresPodcast@gmail.com.
Right. We love hearing from you. And we also really appreciate feedback. 5-star reviews are always welcome and really appreciated. And also telling a friend or family member about our podcast.
Yeah, that's the easiest way to do it. If you do give us a 5-star review, we will share it on an upcoming show, as we have done in the past.
Exactly.
Yes. So that's it. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Hyperion Adventures Podcast. We look forward to sharing some time with you again next week. Until that time, I'm Tom.
I'm Michelle.
And we hope that you have a magical week.
Bye.